So when you take two magnets together and you put them together, they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to slam themselves apart or they're going to slam themselves together. There's a magnetic field. One draws the other to the other, and or you reverse it and they repel each other. Mm-hmm. When you walk in a room, which are you? We are magnets. We are energy. Walking into the room, I've felt both before, and I don't like the feeling of repelling anybody. I learned that young. I learned that very young, and I said, I don't like that. And I remember going to Tom and be like, that's never going to happen to me again. Of course it did. But I learned over time, when I walk into a room, now I know it's only a matter of time before people start coming over and talking. And I've often picked that apart and wondered, how does that now happen? And today we're going to get into that. I know Sean's the same way. It's just a matter of time before people gravitate over to Sean and start talking to him. And it's a skill set we've picked up. I don't know if it's through business or in our younger days when we were pursuing girls. Maybe that's part of it. You know, we have to address that. Like, and everybody knows what we're talking about. But yeah, it's very important what we're going to talk about today, because the impact that you have on people then has impact on more people. And so you as a leader in your life, the things that you do, it has impact. It matters. The food that you eat, the way you address yourself, the way you talk, the way that you show up, your energy. We are all energy. If you break it down to the smallest of molecules, right? There is space in between everything. Space in between everything, right? We're not fully connected at it's the molecular level. Technically, you could walk through a wall. Scientifically, it's possible. If you align the molecules and everything just right, the wall, there's space in between all the elements, right? All the molecules, and so is with our bodies. And you could, if you line them all up perfectly, you could walk through a wall because the space, they wouldn't touch each other. Of course, it's not physically possible, but in theory, that there is space between everything, right? So we are energy. There's constantly vibrating, and you will attract people or you will repel people with that energy. Think about it. If you're in a bad mood, doesn't take long before you put someone else in a bad mood. How is that possible? How can you dictate somebody else's mood? There's a study, and I'll have to put it in the notes. I can't remember where it was, but if you bring the dominant personality into a group of 4 to 5 people, within 90 seconds, that group will have the same demeanor as the dominant a personality in that group. So if that person is in a positive mindset, everyone in that group will be positive. If they come in and it's negative, they'll impact the whole group. So think about the power of that and being able to hone that skill for good as a leader in your life, for your family, your friends, your business, everything out there. It's worth spending time on to make sure that you are bringing people in and making that impact. So Sean, how do you do it? You just push a button and like things just zip in, or what?
Super simple, right? Yeah, no, one of the things that I've learned over time that I resonate so much with, that has helped me, and it's taken years, 30 plus years to understand this, to, like you said, turn heads when you walk in the room, is to embody authenticity. And so what I mean by that is showing up your best version of yourself, your authentic self, who you are, unapologetically yourself. Not being a chameleon, not adapting to somebody else's beliefs or values or attitudes or whatever it may be. Because I used to be that guy, adapting in the environment that I was in, a chameleon. But I've been unapologetically raw, real, authentically myself. Now, have I been perfect at it? Absolutely not. But let me tell you something. The version of you that does, and the version of you that is authentic in your true values and your beliefs, internal soul, there's a peace to it. There is a confidence to it. There is a pep in your step to it. And when you do these things and walk into the room, people know, whether you're on social media, video, post, in person, how you show up on a podcast, you know when somebody is raw and real, authentic. And for me, that has been a blessing in disguise, because before I would mask, I would be a chameleon. And let me tell you something, man, it pulled the peace out of me, because I was trying to meet their needs, Ewan. I was trying to meet the customers' needs, the friends' needs, the wife's needs, the team members' needs. And for this episode, the reason I'm excited about it is because when you're your authentic self, sure, there's a kind, loving, faithful, hopeful way to do it in an authentic, raw, and real. People can feel that. They receive that. And so one of the things that's allowed me to do that is by having self-love, respect for myself. And it's created that discipline to be able to be authentic for myself. Quick story, Ewan, and I'll get your thoughts. Last Friday, I took one of my top team members had recommended that, I stop in, say hi, and provide some lunch. I said, I knew I could count on you. I knew you could hold me accountable. Thanks for keeping me accountable. I'll pick up some whatever you guys want to eat. So they decided on fajitas. I brought it up to the office. I was super excited about seeing them. I did a video on this, and I was going up in the elevator. And when I got up to the office, I opened up the door, and I was thinking I was going to walk in there and put the food on the table, have a good lunch with them. But all of a sudden, when I opened up that door and walked into that room, they had their cameras out. They had the biggest smiles on their face, and they couldn't wait to see me coming through that office door.
That's awesome.
And so I realized immediately that even though they were waiting on me, Ewan, and it was turning their heads they were excited to have Sean come in the office because, if you know or not, I work remotely, so I don't go to headquarters, but maybe once a month. So when when I'm in their presence, they really love my presence. They really love the energy, the charisma, the raw, the real, the authenticity, and that's what they've shared with me. And so I've been being more intentional about doing that more often. Well, the flip side of that, Ewan, what was important to me was in my authentic self is one of the things that I've learned in leadership is that when you walk into these rooms, are you walking into the room or office as the main attraction? Or are you walking in the room or the office being able to see that other person, seeing your team, and making them the main attraction, making your spouse the main attraction, not you?
Yeah.
Because I used to be the guy that's like, yep, I'm here. Let's go. But now when I walk into a room and when I opened up that office door, I had my camera out, and there's a video of this on social media. I wanted to video them. I wanted them to be the main attraction.
That's awesome.
And so if iron doesn't sharpen iron, and leaders don't learn from leaders, and being a role model, which leads to my second point, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I'll to reel that back right before the authenticity, you have the intention of being
Yeah.
authentic, and so you set the intention. I think that's so powerful because you can't fool people. You can't fake authenticity. It's impossible. And humans, we're not dumb. Like, we will pick up real fast what this person is about very quickly. I think the study I read was, I think it's between 3 and 7 seconds. Someone will pick up your vibe. And so
Yes.
you have a very short window of time, especially if you've never met them before, to make an impression on someone. And whatever your intention is, that's what they're going to pick up, no matter what. Now, some people are very good at maybe hiding that, but even then, we still know something's off. You know what I mean? And so I think having the right intention and knowing authenticity is key. And it's about them keeping it empathetic over there with them. That is the intention. And what did we talk about at the start? The energy that comes out. I don't mean that in like a woo-woo way. It just is how we relate as human beings. And so, yeah, I think that is absolutely key, man. For me, I know I have that short window, and I have a strange formula. And you know what, to add on to that, everyone is so different. You have to kind of find your key.
Yes.
But a lot of it comes from confidence, and then when you have that confidence, you can kind of use that. And so when you said you go in as the main attraction, right? It does turn heads. But then, are they getting a good show and enjoying the main attraction, or are they disappointed? Because if it's all about you, they will leave disappointed to a certain degree. If it's all about them, man, they are coming back for the second show. They will love that, and it's the flavor that you leave with them. So, to me, it was always I'm going to come in as the main attraction.
Mm.
And so that as a beacon for them to come over. And as soon as they come over, I know how from what I've gathered, most people are cautious. They want to be close to that main attraction. They want to see what the excitement, the energy is about. It doesn't take long for them to figure out which direction it's going to go. And so for me, when they come over, immediately, kablam, I am in their world.
Mm.
And I'm
Yes.
100% authentic me over there with them.
Yep.
And how is your life? How is your world? I want to know all about them and the little intricacies. And I don't know. I love that. I enjoy it, and it seems to work well. And so those are some of my go-to things. That wouldn't work for everybody. P.S. Right? That it's because everyone has different personalities. But yeah, for me, my mindset, the intention is, if anyone, and everyone who does come over here to me, if I go to them, I'm going to be over there in their world and just be authentic. So yeah, man, I couldn't agree more with you on that first point.
What I'm also hearing you say is that when you're coming in, opening up the door, the office, customer, whoever it may be, your kids, your wife, what I'm hearing you say is that you're leading through service. And so before walking through that door, you have already previously done that in these different environments, in these different relationships, and people already sense that about you, Ewan. And it's not ego. You're leading through service because you're actively listening. You're asking questions. You're engaged with them. You're putting others first. That is servant leadership. So yeah,
Yeah. Thanks for saying
right.
that. Yeah.
For me, it's all about elevating others. And so, yeah, the title may say, turning heads when you walk through the door, but let's peel back the layers a little bit. Let's understand why that is. It's because all the work that's been done and what's been felt from our family, customers, team members, the people around us because of leading through service, being that servant leader. Because when people see that you genuinely are interested in them and in helping them grow and empowering them, well, what the byproduct of that is they're naturally inspired to improve themselves.
Yeah.
And you show that you can care. You show that you're connecting with them. And so for me, one of the things that I've learned and been a student of the game is I want to empower and help people to see and become the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
I don't want to just command it. So that every interaction, whether it's podcast, whether it's in person, whether that's a team meeting, I want to encourage others by asking what they need to succeed rather than telling them what to do. And so being that, it's funny because at my church, people are like, man, you're very motivational, And so there's a difference between, I never consider myself a motivational speaker, but I want to be like what John Maxwell says, a motivational teacher, helping provide resources and tools and equipping people to help them remove their obstacles and to create that ripple effect in their lives to help build others up. Share a quick little story, and I'll get your thoughts. I had a meeting. I reached out to an individual that had been in the same industry as me. And one of the things I wanted to be very intentional about on a weekly basis is to meet up with one individual I hadn't talked to or networked in a while. So I wanted to be intentional about networking. So I met this individual at the coffee shop, and this was a few weeks back. And in our discussion, I was vulnerable immediately, right away, dropped the pride, dropped the ego. He was excited to see me, had the biggest smile on his face. And at the same time, you could tell, like, what are we doing here? And I knew that he was thinking that because, I had randomly reached out to him and was intentional about, hey, there's no motive, there's no agenda. I just simply want to see how I can serve you today and ask you some questions, get to know what you've been doing, what you've struggled with. And I'll share my experiences and what I've struggled with in hopes that maybe it empowers you or uplifts you and lets you know that you're not alone, because I've experienced that loneliness. Fast forward, I asked this individual these 4 questions. And he immediately, I was like, hey, man, I got some questions to ask you. He goes, okay, thinking, hey, how's the kids? How's the wife? It was going to be very generic. But no, I was very intentional about the questions. And if you're listening to this, I would encourage you to write these 4 questions down. Because if you do, this is going to be one way to help you authentically turn heads when you walk into a room, because it's going to show that you're engaged, you're listening, and you're putting yourself in that other person's shoes, asking how you can serve them. The first question is, what do you need and how can I serve you? Question mark, and let them talk. He looked at me when I asked that question, Ewan. He goes, what do I need? Nobody's really asked me that question before. I said, how can I serve you? And I stopped talking and I let him talk and I made a note on what he told me. The second question, who do you want to meet? He looked at me again. Nobody's asked me that question in 30 plus years. He thought about it for a second, gave me an answer. Third question, what is something you love to do? Thought about it for a second, gave me his answer, wrote it down. Fourth question, who do you love the most? Gave me the answer, wrote it down. My point here is that by being very intentional about these questions and by being engaged, actively listening, and being a servant leader in this environment, asking questions that hadn't been asked before, it allowed me to show up with this mentality of how can I serve you? How can I help you? And so what I have learned, Ewan, and you can share your thoughts on this, when you remove that ego and pride on what can you do for me? Because man, I did that for 30 years. What can you do for me? It's the wrong mentality. You have to drop that ego and pride, be the servant leader, sacrifice, and realize it's all about making it about that other person. And if you can do that on a one-on-one basis, a small group basis, or an audience basis, to me, that's what I've learned that's what turns heads when you walk into an office or when you walk into a room.
That's beautiful, man. The first question you asked there is, what do you need? How can I serve you? He said, no one's asked that before. We don't even ask ourselves that. What do I need?
Yeah.
So that's a powerful question, man. You ask that to someone, you really have to stop and think, what do I need? I'm not sure. So let's discover that. And you're bringing so much value there because you're helping go down that thought process of
Yes.
what is it that I need? And maybe it brings a little bit of clarity or a lot of clarity. And man, that's so valuable, man. And it's just not a common question. I love that, man. And the paradox about walking into the room to turn heads, why would you click on this episode to want to know that? People want to be seen. People want to be seen. They want to be the person when you walk in the room. They want to be the person that people look at and empathize and. But the paradox with that is, someone comes over, they've seen you, and if you really want to be seen, you have to see them.
Yes.
Because if you're being seen, it means you're not seeing others. If that's the mindset. And so when you see other people and get into their world, that's the only true way to be seen, because you might get that short-term gratification of being looked at, but there's a big difference between looked at and being seen. And I think when people know your heart, that you're about them, only then are guards dropped and vulnerability can come out. This is very vulnerable questions you asked.
Yeah.
And it truly feels like you saw that person. Just me hearing you say that, asking those questions, kind of, oh man, I'm over here with me. I like thinking to myself, answer these questions. It feels really good over here. You know what I mean? When someone's asking you that, and so how could you make that? How can I make that feeling for someone else? And asking these questions as well. So that's true being seen. And if everyone's doing that, man, what a beautiful world. What a beautiful world. If you ask a child, like I talk to my kids about this and say, hey, don't go looking for friends. Go looking to be a friend. Who needs a friend? Right. And ask them questions about their world.
Brilliant.
And what's going on with them, and really have them be seen. And the question, I can always see it in their eyes. When are they going to ask me about me? Because it feels good over here, and that's a question we ask. That's what we're so afraid of. We're so afraid of not getting our piece over there so people can see us. By asking the questions, it happens naturally. And there will be those people that might not reciprocate. They might not ask those questions, but that's okay. because you will be seen by those who you want to be seen by, the people who you would actually want to be seen by. They will eventually ask those questions and be over there with you. And that's how you know you find someone special, in my opinion. That's how
Mm,
you know when someone cares, like that's a special person. Because if you're out there caring all the time and you
mm,
don't get a lot of that,
yep.
they know a lot about me. I just assume no one cares, and I love that. I don't need them. Man, I think you mentioned that earlier in different podcasts. Just that self love. When you're
Yep.
okay with yourself. I, I was at not networking. It was our national headquarters sales meeting in Nashville, and I had spoken to this girl for about an hour and a half, and I just knew everything about her. Beautiful story. Love to hear it. And someone came over like, hey, we're all going this way. And I said, well, I'm going to go head back to the room. And she's like, well, I need to get to know about you. And I said, you know what? There's nothing interesting about me. It was great to talk to you. See you later. And so it was just so funny to see the look on her face. And I just walked away feeling refreshed and rejuvenated that this person got to
Wow.
be seen. And it was good for her. And, yeah, I don't know. I found joy in that, and that all the people that I need to have see me, they see me, and so I can just go get to share the love. So it's a different mindset, and it's not, and that doesn't have to be true for everybody. There's nothing wrong with sharing yourself with someone. If you find that special person that wants to know, man, have at it, and reciprocate. But yeah, that's the world that I want to live in right there.
Here recently, we attended a wedding. We got invited to a beautiful wedding, and you were a part of that wedding, Ewan, and you actually officiated this wedding. And you know, I was like, man, Ewan's the man for the job. And we've all been knowing about this, that you were going to be officiating the wedding, and we were excited for the day. And it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful venue. It was a beautiful environment, beautiful people, beautiful bride and groom. And I remember walking into this venue and seeing you there, seeing your wife, seeing your kids, and just looked absolutely beautiful family, right?
Oh,
Inside and
thank
out.
you, man.
And it was time to start the wedding. And you had went up to the very front, and immediately, we all looked around, and people were, some of our friends were there, and Ewan's officiating the wedding. He's up there. Man,
Oh,
he
that's
looks
funny.
clean. You know, all this positive feedback and comments started. Heads were turning, like, who is this guy up here? And I'm sitting there smiling ear to ear, and I'm like, yeah, that's my buddy. That's my best friend. And the bride, the groom, they come down the aisle and just looking gorgeous, looking beautiful. Heads were turned. And it made me realize right then and there, when the heads were turned, when the doors were opened, and people were watching in that moment, that what was happening in that environment, the presence, the in the moment, the in the being of
Mm,
all heads, all eyes on what's going on, the officiation of what's being said, the audio, what you said, which was beautiful. And it was all real. It was all authentic. It was all from the Bible. It was all from scripture. It was all from the heart.
mm,
You weren't trying to be somebody that you weren't. You were speaking from your authentic self, and it was felt.
mm.
I can't speak for other people, but I know I had felt that. And I told you after the end of the ceremony, the wedding, I was like, dude, I was just great job, man. Fantastic job. Like that was received, that was felt. And sometimes it can be intimidating to get up in front of people and talk and, do something that you're not used to doing, officiating weddings. But because you were our authentic self, and, I'm sure you had prayed about it, but you were able to make a difference in officiating that wedding. And I think the people around it was an overall just a beautiful experience.
Mm.
And I'm able to reflect back on that and realize, like, man, I really loved the way he showed up. I really loved him saying yes when he didn't have to. He didn't charge anything. You didn't get, it wasn't about that. It was because, hey, I'm being a servant leader here.
Mm.
And to me, that just makes me proud that there's individuals out there like you, Ewan, to be service driven, servant leadership driven, and not prideful and not ego. So just
Oh
beautiful,
man,
man.
Dude, thanks for saying that, man. I was just up there, just shaking in my boots, the whole time. Yeah, it was, man, I learned a lot about that too, man. It's funny because, I didn't really think about it from that perspective, but, you know, I was the only person up there at the front, so all eyes were on me. And then
Yes.
when the main event comes in, the bride,
Yep.
and the groom, and all eyes are on her,
Yep.
um, and the feelings that gives people is just fascinating, and so that could be if you're listening to this, that could be
Yes.
you bringing that vibe, that energy, and it's always available. Every human being has the potential to do that. And there was a number of points I was going to make, like, kind of like, how you dress, smiling, just simple things that make a huge difference, and having that confidence in yourself, and just that self love, all goes into how can you impact other people with
Yeah.
the gifts that you've been given. Yeah, so hopefully this episode has some value for folk. It's might be that start off, yeah, I want to be looked at, but this is really an episode about looking at other people
Well,
and
and
how
one,
they get looked at.
I'll wrap up on my point, but I wanted to give some side note here, you and we can, even if listeners are want to reach out. I know you're the best man for the job as far as presenting yourself right and how you look and how you dress and making it all about the other individuals. And I'm sure you've got some key points there. And just we can either make another episode, or for individuals want to send us a DM or direct message, I'm sure we could put those key points and give that to them. You think that would be
Yeah.
helpful?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, if anyone wants to reach out, I'll talk to you all day. If that's what they if they need some help, I'd love to dig in and see how I can help you out.
And you listening to this, I'm telling you right now, to turn heads, Ewan Heinemeier is the guy that does that so well.
Step
He
one: buy a kilt and just.
Yeah. So my final thoughts, man, and then you can wrap it up with your thoughts, is communicate purpose clearly. And so what I mean by that is, for me, it's like vision driven, and share the why behind the actions and what we're trying to do, which is creating impact, maybe it's leaving a legacy, but sharing your why openly with others that are in your life will create this environment that will allow them to, or hopefully inspire them to show up and create their purpose driven life and create that fulfillment, that meaning, because this all aligns with servant leadership. This all aligns with authenticity. And then when you tie that why behind it, man, you just become this unstoppable force, and people are attracted to that.
Yeah.
And I've always seen that in Ewan and how he's showed up. Is there's always been typically a why behind the things that he's done: building a family, raising his kids, starting a business, going through the entrepreneurial journey. He has this why that when he tells you it, you can feel it in your soul. And for me, it's like anytime he walks through a room, anytime he comes to the run club, I always do a 90 on, and I'm like, that's my boy. He's here. I'm excited to see him. I'm glad. I'm grateful he's here. Even when he didn't want to even when he couldn't do the podcast and he had other obligations, I was like bummed that he couldn't be here and doing the podcast. So if you want to be that individual, you have the power within you to be that human being for the people around you, your kids. Think about your kids, them aspiring to be like their dad, their mom, because you're a role model, because you're driven by your why, by your actions and who you want to become, because you are communicating your purpose clearly for your wife, for your spouse, for your team members. You have the power within you to do that. And it starts today. And that is my why, is to empower others to see and become the best version of themselves. And I do this by sharing the journey, my failures, my mistakes, what I've learned, being a student of the game, my failures. And then on the flip side of that, what I've done to overcome those, so I can equip you in these obstacles and challenges that we all face. So commit to lifelong learning and curiosity, and some of these things that we've shared today, and watch heads turn when you walk in the room, office, whatever door that you walk through. Ewan, any final thoughts?
Man, well, right back at you, man. When you're in the room, at Run Club, wherever I are, I'm like 100% the same feeling. I'm just, I feel I feel this I don't know, but it's like the security. I'm just glad you're there, man. I
Yeah.
just love it. I've always loved that about you, and I'm always a happier person when you're around, man. And so yeah,
Thanks,
right
man.
back at you. And I'll finish with this. I heard it once, and I loved it. If you look at a beautiful masterpiece, let's say it's a Monet painting, and it's absolutely beautiful, and you're at the Louvre in France, in Paris, and you see this beautiful painting. If you take the frame off of it, it's not complete. It's not finished, right? The frame, if you put a beautiful frame on a beautiful piece of art, it really is this amazing experience. And our physical outward appearances are the frame, right?
Mm.
It's not the work of art. It enhances it, right? So we are all, when you walk in that room and people see you, your physical aspects, that's the frame, and within you is your the beauty, right? The thing you fixate on. And so when you see other people, that is the frame, and you got to look, you got to ask questions, you got to dig to see the piece of art that that human being is, and putting it all together. When you start seeing people through those lenses, you will feel the reciprocation come back. You will be
Mm.
someone that person, um, they'll hold you in a different light, even though you're the one, because you're the one seeing them. So that would be my final piece, man. Just we're all works of art.
Beautiful story, man. Thanks for sharing. I think that's a great way to end, brother. Level up and live.
Live up and live.